What causes us to develop addictions? What causes us to develop controlling behaviors like perfectionism or codependency? Why do we sometimes manipulate or even betray those we love? How we learn to connect with ourselves and with others actually determines in great part how our brains develop. It's why we exaggerate, it's why we gossip, it's why we betray, rescue, or even abuse those we love most.
There's an open door, now we'll find our way.
There are only two ways to connect: the healthy way and the unhealthy way. The healthy way is called vulnerability, and we have a lot of other videos that you can check out about that. But today, we're gonna focus on the unhealthy way. The unhealthy way is called the drama triangle. The brain is made to connect, and almost everything we do throughout the day revolves around us trying to fulfill that need to connect. Whether our brain is trying to feel accepted and safe, or trying to explain to itself why we feel so stressed and anxious, it's how our brain makes sense of the world around us. And to achieve that connection, very few of us can use the healthy way, vulnerability, because we don't know how. We simply didn't see it modeled enough as we were growing up. Most of us live in the drama triangle the majority of our day, at school, at work, at the grocery store. Now I know what you're thinking. I do not want to connect with that weirdo standing next to me in line at the grocery store, and I definitely don't want to connect with any of my coworkers. But there's where you're wrong. Our brains are actually constantly searching for connection. It could be a momentary connection, a superficial connection. It can even be a connection with something that's not an actual person at all. To learn more about that, check out our videos on controlling behaviors, shame, and addiction. The drama triangle has three roles: the persecutor, the victim, and the rescuer. And no, the rescuer is not the only healthy one. None of them are healthy. The drama triangle allows us to connect with others without actually having to process our own emotions or process their emotions. It's the quick, easy way to force other people to connect with us when our brains so desperately need it. When we're in the persecutor role, we assume that love means respect. We feel loved when others respect us. If you love me, you will respect me. And for us, respect means obedience. If you love me, you will obey me. You will see my point of view. You will understand that it's right and that you are wrong, and that I really am, after all, the wise, good person that you should follow. When we're in the victim role, we assume that love is when other people serve us. We feel loved when others help us and spend their time and energy on us. When they take time to help us and care for us, then surely that means they love us. And surely that means we are worthy of their love. When we're in the rescuer role, we assume that love is when others need us. We feel loved when others need our help and our time. Although this role may seem to be the most loving, it is actually the most hurtful because it takes away agency. It doesn't allow others to grow and learn on their own. They are required to use us as a middleman. In fact, it pretty much ensures that they and us will be trapped in the drama triangle forever. Anytime you go into the drama triangle, it means one thing: I need love. And it may not look like that. If my sister starts to criticize me about how I'm raising my children, the first thing that pops into my mind is probably not going to be, "Oh, she needs love," right? But in all reality, that is exactly what's happening. When others criticize us, the root of what they're wanting is for us to realize that they are right and how good and wise they are and how much they really love us, because they are trying to help us be a better person, and that we should love and respect them for that. They are in the persecutor role, where love means respect. You can see how twisted and ridiculous it sounds, but in all reality, it's how the majority of our brains have learned to connect with ourselves and with others. The drama triangle means I need love. Every time that you or someone else goes into the drama triangle, that is what they're saying. And when we start recognizing that, that's when everything changes. Here are some examples of people in the role of persecutor. Patty walks into the room to find her daughter playing on the cell phone instead of doing the homework that she was supposed to have done before that evening. "Are you kidding me?" Patty says. "Oh my crap, get your homework done." When she goes out of the room, Patty leaves feeling frustrated and hurt. She feels a disconnection because in persecutor role, we assume that love means you will obey me. Her daughter did not obey her. Patty feels not loved and tries to force a connection by forcing her daughter to be obedient to what she says. Paul's boss points out something wrong that Paul did on a project he's been working on throughout the week. Paul feels a bit anxious and stressed when his boss points it out. When Paul goes home from work later that evening, he can't get it out of his head, and he starts to feel a bit offended by the way that his boss handled the situation. Why did he even point out that little mistake? It wasn't that big of a deal, and he made it into a big deal, Paul thinks. Plus, he did it in front of everyone else. If he had a problem with me, he should have talked to me in a respectful way in private, not in front of everyone, making me look like an idiot. Paul is falling into persecutor role. He feels offended that someone pointed out what Paul perceives as an imperfection in himself. If Paul is not the perfect and best worker, that means he is worthless. He is not worthy of respect. He is not worthy of connection. Here are some examples of people in the role of victim. When Devin's wife gets frustrated, Devin often shuts down. He goes behind his wall and doesn't want to say or react to anything. He feels like no matter what he says, it's gonna be wrong. And no matter what he says, he won't be able to fix it. Devin is in victim role, where he feels like he has no power over the situation. So he will wait for his wife to come rescue him, for his wife to calm herself down and decide that she wants to connect again. In the past, Tanya's husband has connected with other women emotionally in a way that's inappropriate and in a way that has hurt Tanya and their marriage. Tanya has told him before that he's not allowed to have any women in his Facebook account as friends. When she opens up his phone that morning, she discovers that he has several of his old girlfriends as friends on Facebook. Tanya freaks out and confronts him about what she found on the phone. He responds by saying that she's overreacting, he didn't go looking for them, that they're the ones who friended him, and it would be rude if he unfriended them. Surely she doesn't want him to hurt other people. He is in victim role, trying to convince himself and others that he's merely a victim of everything else that happens around him. Not only do we use the drama triangle to connect with other people, we use the drama triangle to connect with ourselves as well. Whenever we act out in an addiction or participate in a controlling behavior, we're using that addiction or controlling behavior as the rescuer inside our own drama triangle. Check out our other videos we have on being alone in the drama triangle, so you can learn more about what it looks like when you're moving between those three roles within the drama triangle in an effort to connect with yourself. You'll learn more about what addictions are and what controlling behaviors are and how to heal them. Here's some examples of people in the role of rescuer. Natalie's husband had a hard day at work, and when he came home, he immediately yelled at the kids for having their toys on the floor. Natalie feels bad because the kids were so excited to see their daddy come home, only to have him yell at them the minute he comes in the door. Natalie takes her daughter aside and says, "You know what, sweetie, daddy's just really sad today, so don't worry about it, it's okay." Although Natalie is trying to console and love her daughter, she is putting herself in between her daughter and her husband. She is not allowing or supporting or suggesting to her husband that he be the one to come talk to their daughter and that he be the one to fix the hurt that he caused. Instead, she is doing it for him. She is preventing her husband from growing because he will never see the full consequence of how his actions really do hurt those around him. John receives a call at work from his neighbor David, asking John to please go pick up David's in-laws from the airport. David's in a meeting and can't get out to pick them up on time. John has been working late every night that week and is already stressed about how little time he's been spending with his kids lately. John feels even more stressed as he hears David explain to him how last time his in-laws got frustrated because he came to the airport late and he doesn't want that to happen again. So please, John, go pick them up. John feels bad saying no, though. He doesn't want to offend David, and if he doesn't pick up David's in-laws, who will? He agrees to pick them up and hopes that his wife will understand. We fall into the rescuer role when we're doing things for other people that they can and should do for themselves. After all, when John really thinks about it, he would never call a neighbor and ask him to leave work early to go pick up his mother-in-law. He would be responsible enough to work it out beforehand. When John agrees to do things for other people that they should have been responsible in working out on their own, he's preventing them from learning that responsibility because they don't ever have any consequences when they don't learn it. We usually switch back and forth between the three roles throughout the day and even throughout the same interaction, depending on which role is more successful for ensuring a connection with that person at that moment. However, we do usually have a dominant role that we prefer, or a role that we prefer with each individual person in our lives. To find out which drama triangle role is your dominant role, become a member of our channel by clicking the join button at the bottom of this video. And we'll send you diagnostics to identify not only your dominant drama triangle role to assist you in leaving the drama triangle, but also diagnostics to identify if you have an addiction, controlling behaviors, relational trauma, and more. Becoming a member of our channel, you'll also be sent weekly workbook exercises and homework specifically designed to develop those neural connections that are lacking or damaged because of unhealthy behaviors. If I start out in persecutor role and my husband is just fighting back and will not admit that I am right, then I might move over to victim role and start complaining that no matter how hard I try, I will never be enough for him and I can't make him happy, in hopes that he will move into rescuer role and maybe give me a hug and tell me, you know what, sweetie, I'm sorry. You're right. It's not a big deal. I love you. You are enough for me. And then I have won the hard-earned connection and love that I so desire. We don't do this because we're intrinsically manipulative or we're bad. We do this because it is literally the only way we know how to connect. We have additional videos on each drama triangle role, so you can understand a little bit better what it looks like when a dominant role victim moves into persecutor or rescuer, or what a dominant role rescuer looks like when they move into persecutor or victim, because they do all look a little bit different. So check out those videos so you can better understand what those look like. We connect through the drama triangle unconsciously. We usually don't consciously choose which role we want to play out or how best to manipulate those around us. The majority of the drama triangle is controlled by what we call the animal part of the brain, the limbic system right here in the middle. And the limbic system is incredibly good at picking out patterns from past experience. What is safe? What is dangerous? What works and what doesn't work, what gets us feeling loved and what gets us feeling rejected. The drama triangle does work. If it didn't work, we wouldn't use it. We do feel a certain level of connection. We feel loved, but there are consequences. At least one person involved or everyone involved is going to leave the interaction feeling used, hurt, manipulated. Because the animal part of our brain is running the show, there is very little input from the human part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, where we find empathy, understanding of cause and effect, logic and reasoning. So in that moment, we can't fully think of how our words and our actions are affecting other people because we're not using that part of our brain. In the drama triangle, there are certain levels of feel-good hormones that are produced by our brain. Dopamine that helps us feel pleasure, serotonin that helps us feel loved and safe, endorphins that help us feel happy. But the level or the quantity that's produced is so minimal compared to how much is produced when we use vulnerability, the healthy way to connect. The reason is our brains aren't made, they aren't created to use the drama triangle to connect. It's created to use vulnerability to connect. That's when our brain actually works the way it's supposed to work. When we use vulnerability, there are huge amounts of dopamine and serotonin and endorphin that are released in the brain. We feel good, we feel happy, we feel peace. Vulnerability is incredibly effective for helping us feel loved and valued, and helping others love and value us in return. However, if we didn't see vulnerability modeled for us over and over and over by our primary caregiver, our mother or a father, as we were growing up, we probably don't have the neural connections developed in our brain that are necessary in order for us to be able to use vulnerability in a natural and easy way. That's to say, our brain physically looks different from the brain of someone who had that blessing of growing up in a family where vulnerability was modeled from infancy. If you were to do a brain scan of both brains, you can visually see the difference in the two brains. If we don't have those neural connections in our brain, we can still use vulnerability. It's just incredibly difficult and requires a lot of self-control because the brain connections just simply aren't there to make it natural and easy for us. Please be patient with yourself. You can heal your brain. You can learn how to leave the drama triangle and develop vulnerability as the way you connect. And not only that, vulnerability can become the natural, easy, go-to way that you connect. But it requires work. It's not hard work, just consistent work. You have to actually create those neural connections in your brain, not just learn to control your emotions. There has to be an actual physical change in your brain. But the good news is that creating those new neural connections actually isn't very difficult. It just requires consistency, small, simple things that you do each and every day. To learn what those small and simple tools are so that you can rewire your brain and learn how to use vulnerability in an easy and natural way, check out our other videos that we have on the drama triangle, as well as the videos that we have on shame and vulnerability.